beautiful evening on a Friday. Today, I'm going to tell you about how we apply data science, and I'm going to tell you two results. One, that is how we can develop the framework to learn about the microscopic dynamics of traffic for the first time, comparing several cities and learning from them thanks to the availability of having data from all of them. And then for ones that want to do more like, so what, why do we use that? I tell you a story that is going to appear next week in Nature Energy about how we use these frameworks to plan for electric cars. So one is pretty science-based, and the second story is very applied, so I hope I can capture the attention and the interest of a broad audience. Let me start with the motivation. As you know, there are all these names, all these book names, all of them have less than 10 years. Like you can see Lyft, Uber, Tesla, Google Maps, all these have meant in one sentence that the internet became mobile. It means we have instant access to location information and to services. We can request a car and decide where we're going to go. We can even plan the trips and do carpooling. This is definitely revolutionizing the mobility ecosystem. And that means for us that all the users of technologies, including mobile phones and smartphones, are leaving digital traces in space. However, in order to plan for all of them, we need more than just the service of everybody. So what I'm showing you here is in the video that is running, it's not running, let me turn to, okay, now it's running. So basically it's Dynamite. It's a commercial video in which they are having a demand model of the city, and the question is how these models of demand are done. Basically, you have a population synthesizer and activity generation, road planning, microsimulation to do the results and plan, not for the ones that the IT companies are serving, but for everybody. One of the weakest aspects of these demand models, in my opinion, is the input data, because we need to rely on travel diaries that in the old days, but not too long ago, were done with paper and pencil, or with smartphones, but normally they cover only 1% of the population. So the idea is, how can we complement this information and be able to use mobile phone data for the purpose of demand models? There are many challenges because this data is sparse, doesn't have everybody. However, and the most important thing, that's why I'm showing here in red, is all the traces of one individual in 6 months. If you start getting the traces and you assume that the location is the place where the person was, already you start having headaches with the data. So the data of geolocated devices is not meant to let us know where the person is, the mode of transportation, and so on. Then we need to plug into a whole set of methods that are called parsing trajectories, and the blue points are the stay locations of the individual. So we go from the set of points that are triangulated approximate locations. Then you need to detect the stay locations, and then you need to classify the trips between stay locations and trips. That is the first step. I will not go into the details of the method, but there, for example, I have a paper of last year that is understanding the predictability of explorations in human mobility. Then, once you clean the data, you have the stay locations. Here is the advantage. And in these two plots, I can let you know why you see that once you label the stays, we can treat this information as we were a survey. The first thing is in the blue users, mobile phone users. You get one random position and then you weigh what is the probability that you're going to see that person in the same position you and we can rank the locations of individuals based on this return. And that is what we have in the left-hand side. That is, we group the individuals by those that visited in 6 months only 5 locations, because there is a lot of heterogeneity. It doesn't mean that we have only young population that travel a lot. There are many types of users on the phone, and you can start dividing them by group, and then we can have some people that visited 50 locations, 30 or 10, but what is interesting, when we rank those locations from 1 to n, and that's what we have in the L-axis, what we have is that, and we're counting in PL, what is the fraction of time you saw the person in that location from the first to the 5th, 10th, or 30th most location. And what is fantastic is that, as you see in the inset, in Lindley, in the first 3 locations, you have already about 70% of the time. So, even if it's sparse, we don't have it in real time every day, but we can have 6 months, and then you have the rank, the locations in which the person tend to be most of the time, either home, work, and so on. That result, this type of plots appear in mobile phone data all over the world, and we published it already in 2008. However, it's not good for traffic as it comes, because for traffic we need to have the trips and the entire presence during a day. The question is then, how we can get the mobile phone data and do an urban demand model with the preferential return and routine we learn from the data. What are the techniques? We need to develop techniques to fill up the information. And then there are 2 approaches. First, we would like to take into account what are the similarities, the patterns and universals you can see in the data, and at the same time see the heterogeneity, what makes every user different. So by combining these two approaches, is a method that we need to enter into the mobile phone data to fill up the entire trajectory, given the nature of the data. We cannot do utilities, we cannot do choices, we need to develop the methods that learn from the data to do these models. Then, is how it came this result that appeared. You see, the beginning that only tells me the returns was in 2008. It took us 8 years to go from the label location of one sparse user to be able to fill up the entire trajectory of someone in a day. This is an example of a sparse user that we need to have a synthetic version of himself or herself, and we cannot know exactly this guy, we don't know, this simulation, we don't know how he really is. However, I can tell you that we can find these parameters and create synthetic populations informed by mobile phone data that is much more useful than having to live, for example, in the number of the travel diary of Boston. We have the demand model of Boston with 30,000 people, and we can generate this type of trajectory with 2 million individuals. Then, when we're filling up the origin-destination matrices, we have way better chances to fill the OD traffic. Then I was asked explicitly by colleagues, please present not so many results, then it's fine. All of my colleagues that came here said they have seen this before. I'm not presenting the details, but what I can tell you here is that you identify home, and this is an example of a non-commuter, and in the 4 plots on top, that you can see all the details in this paper of last year, 2 years ago, we do the circadian rhythm to see when they move these parameters, beta 1, beta 2, and NW, fill up the heterogeneities. These are captured the difference between individuals, when they are going to move, when they are going to put an error, on how long they stay in the flexible activities. This type of plot tells us the ratio between explorations, that is, you're going to visit a new location in the data, or you're going to go to the one that you already went. And here, if you go to a new location, we need to have an intervening opportunity type of assignment. So it's a whole framework that is adapted I've given you the reference, but let's see how it's done. What we can do right. And here we have 2 years of one smartphone user that is in red. And in blue we have the synthetic version of himself. And then we say what we can measure from him, what we can synthesize or model from here. The number of visited locations per day. Sometimes he visits only one day, and sometimes one place, and sometimes he visits up to 8 different locations. How long he stays? He tends to stay from 10 minutes, 100 minutes, 8 hours in a place. So we can recover that only belongs to him given the parameters we learned from his phone data. The ranking of the locations are just presented, so we have the first 3 and then the rest. And of course, because we impute the preferential locations, we can of course produce also the distance graph. Beautifully, in the framework that we do the trajectories, the typical days looks like this, and we don't fit every day. This type of motifs are the result of the temporal framework. Then, what this is not good for, and it's a very open type of research in computer science, is we cannot predict the exact location. Here I'm showing 350 days of smartphone users that in this case we prove our framework for this project that is in Denmark, that is called Sensible DTU. They have all 800 students with smartphones around for over 2 years. I just pick continuous days, and this is an example of one user. You can produce the pattern of how many places, how long they stay, how far they travel, the type of places they go. But you cannot predict the exact day, because if you think about in ourselves, do you know where you're going to be this evening? This type of aspects, the predictability is hard, so the predictability of the locations is up to 50. But because one interesting aspect, particularly in this case of the students, 70% of the locations were visited only once. Then that is adapting to the nature of human travel, that you visit very new locations. Still we can do this type of models, and with the parameters we have different type of individuals that are this one that stay longer, stay shorter. That means visit few locations per day or a lot of locations per day. Again, for the ones that we don't have enough data, they are synthetic realizations, and for the active users we have learned from the data. What is this framework gives us at the end of the day is a validated framework that is comparable to what the transportation planning package has for commuting in Boston and in other cities around the world. And the latest aspect that is important for us is that the NCHRP, from the Transportation Academy of Science, already asked us to write a report on cell phone location data for travel behavior analysis, in which they compare our framework, the product of a mobile phone company, and the model that Cambridge Systematics, in this case is the company, they do. So already it's possible to be able to model these things. To use mobile phone data is a new technology to do demand models. And the question is, what type of things we can do? So now that we have the framework, I would like to let you know applications. The first story I think is done by Luis Olmos, that is sitting there in the back. He's a PhD. He visited my lab 1 year during his PhD, and now joined the group of apostles, and Sarah Sholak, that now is at Lyft. He did his PhD in transportation. I'm warning that this is the 1 year work of a PhD in physics. So this is the one in which I tell you we can do new science into the field by the opportunity of the new data. And in the second part, is the electric car nature energy paper we're having next week. So, here is the deal. If we have cities all around the world, it's no-brainer, it's not surprising that if we have many cars in the streets, this type of collapses are going to occur. And there is some work in the literature speaking about the signs of cities in which, and we have seen in the class when we did here, the population of the city, and here we were calculating the ridership in the metro, these types of scaling laws appear, but of course for a given population you have this dispersion. It's interesting because there are tendencies or constitutive laws of cities that you can treat them like thermodynamic laws. You do not know the details, but hopefully you can see the tendencies. However, our goal is to work from the bottom up. What this means is that we wanted to see these tendencies in 5 cities we can compare, but in which we have the traffic model in detail. Then the question we ask, if we can predict a traffic index in cities from controllable variables that are measured at the individual level. So we don't want to work something that is in the y-axis, something that is for the entire city. We want to measure a characteristic thing that affects the individuals. And the question we wanted to do is if we can determine the critical load, the critical amount of cars in which the city collapses. And by collapse, I'm going to define what I mean, so on and so forth. So let's start with the first part, that is, let's measure this individual quantity. To do so, that individual quantity is going to be tau. This tau there up in the equation. What we are measuring here is you have 3 cities, is Boston, Bay Area, and Melbourne, and this is not based on data, this is the diaries. We just ask, based on the diaries, all the people that departed in the morning, that they are drivers, how many of them we have in the car, then in the streets. Then you see all travelers, you have 500 up to 1,500 so on, and they're arriving, so we are picking up this calculation only in the morning. We do this, for example, in Boston, in Bogota, and here this is a state-of-the-art simulation with dynamic traffic assignment in ISU in Melbourne by our colleagues in Melbourne. So we have that type of metric. If you will metric everybody, you see the load and unload, but we don't see something individual. We came with this idea. Let's track the commuters that depart at 7 a.m. in any city. And here is this nicer, the solid line. Before 7, they are not there, then they start departing, and we are calculating when they are, all the commuters that depart between 7 and 8. Then we see their load and their unload, and it turns out that because this is a target group, we can see this behavior, that they load the network, and because they are a homogeneous group, they unload the network in a characteristic time tau. Of course, some of them travel further away, some of them arrive earlier, but this tau is going to be like a temperature of how congested our city is. Then, what we did is do not only through the survey, but having the audits, we have number of users, number of cars, cell towers, we needed the land scan, census population. We do the framework of OD generation and assign the trips. And here we assign the trips in the 5 cities we have. One aspect, and we're going to be focusing in this loading and unloading time, that is the tau. I need to mention that the assignment we did is simplified. It's not a static traffic assignment, but it's a cellular automata model in which we were having only one lane. If we have only one lane, we could not inject the real volume, but we injected 70% of it. So basically, we have a simplified version in a cellular automata model of the 5 cities, and we are going to study all the microscopic dynamic of them. Then here is the conditions today of the 5 cities. We have that Porto and Boston are better in traffic, and Rio and the Bay Area, so the nicer cities you can visit, they are not so good in traffic. And then we do what we want to do is, okay, let's see how this changes with input and measure. Tau, remember, is the unloading time of the commuters. And this gamma is something that is basically the vehicle's miles traveled divided by the capacity. The vehicle's miles traveled is, you have the assignment, and then you multiply the volume that passed through that link times L, and then we have a decent linear behavior. We discovered that before, but then what we want to do, remember, the objective is, we have 5 cities with the traffic as of today. Even if it's a simplified version of the traffic assignment, we measure the travel times, congested travel time from origin to destinations, and we match the travel time of the users in the 5 cities. And what we want to do is to learn from the system and study it further. And the framework we want to study is, for those that are not familiar with phase transition, I want to give you an example of a phase transition that is a continuous percolation. What we're having here is having more and more circles, and the different colors are different clusters or connected entities that are not connected to the other. When you see here, after a certain amount, see what happens. All the connected components belong to one. You have a giant cluster. And there is a critical number of particles that make the system percolate. And when you go from many clusters to only one giant component, the system goes into phase transition. In our case, you can imagine in the morning, people start filling up the road network, and there is a moment in which they are collapsed. And that type of collapse is not only in space, like in the case of percolation, it belongs to what is called in physics universality class, in which you have the percolation occurs in time. So in this case, what we measure is the density of particles with time, and there is a moment in which they have a constant amount. So those studies are very well characterized. That what is important here is that you can predict a state in which the system collapses. And we want to see that in traffic, but not only in an abstract framework, but with a real travel condition from the ODs and the road network. That was a study that Louis did, and we're going to show that it's in analogy with this phenomena called directed percolation. So what do? What we do is, the little star are the conditions today, but we can do just a scenario analysis of changing the gamma. Remember, the gamma, I'm only changing the volume, because I'm keeping the ODs and the road network. Say, we just change different injection of the volume, and what we see is the tau, the time to unload the network. Then we are loading the network for each of the cities, then it starts increasing linearly, and all of a sudden, it becomes crazy. So it goes up like that. So we detect 3 states. The free flow, that is like the traffic at 3 a.m., that the cars, it doesn't matter the amount of cars, they're going to arrive to the destination depending on the distance. This is the free flow state. There is a moment where the first jump occurs, that is where we are today in the different cities. And the collapse, we haven't seen yet, but we can measure. Then basically that is what we were doing is, remember, the number of cars is a function of time, and what is changing is, there is a moment in which some of these curves that have the exponential decay is the conditions today. But we can control little by little a big transition is because there is a condition in which in any of our cities, if we inject enough amount of cars, we are going to have, after 10 hours, the guys, the commuters that depart at 7 a.m. are going to still there at stuck in traffic. And those are cellular automata. They are rerouting and trying to go back to their destinations. Then, that is the end after long times, and we show that there is a particular rate in which the system collapses, and we are able to detect the exponent of that delta, and it's nicely related to the fact that Porto and Lisbon, because they are monocentric, everybody goes to the downtown, they have different exponents than Boston, Bay Area, and Boston that have the exponent of the transition into there. So that type of thing is a novel way to study the macroscopic characteristic of traffic. And in conclusion, what we have seen is we have studied congestion from a macroscopic point of view, and then the important quantities are tau, that is the unloading time for a group of commuters, and gamma, that control the number of cars where they go and their road capacity. So those type of things are very hard to develop if we have different groups working in one city at a time. And it's novel from the perspective of science of traffic. Then, finally, I would like to go in the next minutes in something that is more applied and is completely different from the study of phase transition, and is basically coupling electric vehicles, charging behavior with urban mobility. Then the pipeline is, what we have is the mobility model called TimeGeo, that is the framework I presented you at the beginning. We use the mobility model of mobile phone data in the Bay Area. We have charging stations data that belongs to a particular company that have several charging station data in the Bay Area. And what we would like to do is checking the behavior. For example, in this case we have car A, car B, car C. And what happens is that when we see a particular station where all the cars are arriving, the problem is that most of them are arriving in the morning. And what we would like to do is to shape the peak demand of these when they arrive into the charging stations. Then basically the type of data we have is by unique IDs. You can have a person when they arrive, let's say in this case a green user, 9412B. The person arrives, charge departed, and then I see when he goes to another charge station, and the stations are located. So we can learn over the weeks or months how these people behave. Then let me tell you what we can see about these users. These users are very heterogeneous. And we have 1 year of data, and at the beginning in January, we have 3,000 users, and every month we have 1,000 more users. Then we want to see what is the number of sessions a person has divided by the total number of days of observation. And normally, we will have 1 session per day, but sometimes we have up to 10 sessions per day or less. That means that people do not use the charging station all the time. So, even if we have about 15,000 users, which is not a lot, we can see a lot of heterogeneity. In other words, how many different stations people visit? We have some people that visit only 1, and there is some people that visit 60 stations. And all of these are private users. And still always, when we have this type of passive data, you see very heterogeneous behavior. Then the type of thing we measure is how many departures. So the probability of departure per day, and we see, arrivals to a given station first. Then we see that most of them are arriving phone data, we have these periodicities. It's a typical behavior when you are analyzing passive data. In any passive data, you see the returns with a given periodicity. Then, what is the problem that we want to tackle? When we see that we focus in only one station, and we see what is the power in kilowatts per time of the day, we have this big peak in the morning. What this means is that if we are going to go electric, autonomous, and everybody's going to be charging as it is in their job location, what is happening is that the traffic peak is being immediately translated to the power peak, and the power peak cannot sustain that. Then the idea is, okay, we need to do recommendations to these users such that we try to shade this peak, and for that we need to know something about their mobility constraints such that we can give the best recommendations. Then what we see here is we did not know details of where the charging station users were coming from, because we only knew when they were charging in the stations. So the idea, when you have a data set that is separated from the other, what we're going to do is a coupling of the two data sets, and what we do is, what is the probability that in my mobility model, someone is an EV user, given that they have an income that is the income of the home location, and it travels a given distance. We want to impute the probability of being an electric car to the mobile phone users. To that end, we needed to know what is the income of the electric car users, and how far they travel, and how many are there. So we know that information. They are about 62% of 0.62% of the cars in the Bay Area are EVs, and these two variables need to come from an EV survey. So we check on the EV survey to fit this, and then based on that behavior, we assign the probability of being EV to the mobile phone users, and then we validate it with a target program data that we could check where our EV users live, and here is the simulated based on the imputation of the rules, the CDRP data, and it looks pretty well. So, but normally in all the zip codes of the Bay Area, the maximum number of EV cars we have today is 350. So there are not so many users, and we already can see they are located here in the south of the Bay. So now we have the model, the mobility model imputed with the charging station data, and what we do is basically minimize the peak, take into account all the charging station data. So we know when they arrive, when they need to finish to be charged, and if we add them all together, we have the peak, and then we need to do this linear programming framework developed by Scott and Enrich with server. Then we want to minimize the peak, and then the idea is visually, this is what's going on. Some people that arrive in the morning is now, all those that arrive in the morning, in the optimized framework, they are needed to arrive a little bit earlier, and the ones that were departing in the evening, they need to arrive to depart a little bit later. Then, if we ask them to depart or arrive with a flexibility of 15 minutes, you have the green curve. There is not much that we save. If you can have the flexibility of up to 60 minutes, we save much more. Then, what the mobile model is useful? It's useful because we can see what are the consequences in travel time of the different scenarios. So we can see that, in general, sometimes our recommendation would produce a delay of 20 minutes, but in very few cases. And in some others, it can even benefit the travel time. But more importantly, what we are doing here is also showing if you check the peak not consuming it at the peak, you're consuming a little bit earlier, and then you don't have that peak behavior. Then there is an associated saving in dollars for doing this behavior. However, what we're showing here is the result of 480 users in one station would give us a saving if they adopt the tariff that is flexible up to 1 hour. They can save together a little bit more than 1,750. If you see how much we are saving per one user, it's about $4 per day. $4 per day, definitely you don't want to play this game. But if we want to do a raffle, let's say, and in the raffle you're competing in the station of your EV peers, and you may gain about $2,000 per month, that may be the hope that people would play this game, and that was the type of information we can give back to the charging station data that were the providers. Definitely they need to come with a schema to manage first come, first serve to the grid, to the station is not working because it's bringing the peak. Then basically, the knowledge of individual mobility and charger data increase the visibility of management strategy. Proper mechanism to engage the PV owners into the game is still necessary, and this is the work we did. I would like now, before open for questions, just mention the type of things I would be doing now, and I am having openings in my group, so I would like to tell you what type of things I'm doing now. I'm very much interested into the interactions between the human layer that I have been working over the last 8 years. I get passive data converted into infrastructure demand models, and there are other non-trivial effects with a spatial temporal scale of the environment. For example, the air quality in Beijing. You see, this is 2 p.m. from a given day. You should be able to see that and see the background. It's terrible. It's like it would be night, and it's the day. And that is what is called, a day like that is called a haze event. Beijing reached the point that they really need to do something because it got too bad, and then the idea is they are going electric, but we need to have a good quantitative information between the transportation policy measure, that is the mobile emissions, and the result of the environment. Then we have the chemical transportation models. People from certain areas are doing it. We are doing the demand models, and we are trying to combine the two knowledge together. So, it's ambitious, it's interdisciplinary, it's very rare. So that is a type of thing. And the innovation, and that has to do with the person or the profile of the person I would like to hire, is that now there is something very interesting. The latest thing, already the fact that we analyze traces, that is almost already old. The latest thing that is very interesting is the ability of analyzing any city in the world from the space. So there are many data sets. NASA is a pioneer, but we also have commercial companies doing images from satellites like Planet Aspire, and we have all the CNN methods of computer vision, convolutional neural networks, algorithms that are open source and are available. So the two things combined definitely can help us towards the science of informed policies that connects the environment, comparing cities. So the idea is making a framework of different cities that we can group them by type and also measure different aspects. Just to tell you an example of that is this work that just appeared last year. Is one step in that direction. We have 8 cities in Europe that have something called the Urban Atlas. They have all their land use classifieds. Then what we saw is in the same grids. This is 250 by 250. Then every cell is 250 by 250 meters. We see the satellite images, and we train the CNN to recognize, given an image, what's the land use. We needed to have the data labeled where we don't have non-use maps. So it's very exciting because also it's into the area of open source. Then I want to say that you can go to GitHub, Adrian Albert, Urban Environments, and you have the CNN implemented for these 8 cities to combine the land use and the satellite training. That was just one example, and we have like a pedagogical video of what do the work is KDD 2017, and that is one example of what we can do. Networks, I have one of my students earlier when we were having the cookie hub. Networks can be used, so basically when we are training the algorithms, and we have sensors, air quality sensors, and also images in all these nodes. Here is a sensor, I-1, and then you have it at time j-1, j plus 1. Then you have your nodes are the places that are connected if they are correlated in time. But different sensors can be connected if they are correlated in terms of similar features. So we can have a spatial analysis, measure correlations, create a network, and have better ways to train the data. And the method is called machine learning in graphs. So the type of things we're doing now is trying to take advantage to the latest computational techniques and data available to plan the cities in taking into account the environmental footprints. So with that, I would like to thank my group. So far we have postdocs are here in Berkeley, and we have 4 students, 2 master and 2 PhDs at MIT. And I would like to open it up for questions. Thank you very much. Alex.
I have a question about your gamma I. So when we computed, so maybe I don't want to put this slide, when we computed for San Francisco, we found enormous variability depending on the location of the city. Like there are entire chunks of the city that are where it's near 0, and there are others where it's pretty high.
Yes.
And so the question is, in your graph where you showed the 5 cities, what interpretation can we give to this single scalar number, given that it's 1 for each city, but also given that within the city, it might be completely opposite depending on the district?
Yes, the gamma is like the GDP. You can have GDP. You can have very poor people, you can have very rich people, and you have a GDP. Yes. So that's why we did the, definitely it's an heterogeneous. It's like the vehicles might struggle through the, when we measure the, in fact it's interesting, we should be measuring the gamma through the, like we do volume over capacity through the streets. We can do volume over capacity of gamma through the streets. It depends what we want to do. When you want to compare several cities at a time, there is one value, and still, even if this is a GDP of Porto, so exactly like GDP, you can compare the GDP of Porto and the Bay Area, and still the GDP of Porto doesn't mean that there is only poor people in Porto. So it's an heterogeneous variable that still we can have one value of it.
So being a poor GDP person just means you have low traffic?
No, less traffic than in the Bay Area as an average. So if you aggregate all the routes on the gamma, in which you have some empty streets, some full streets, and you integrate them all, in Porto you have less vehicles might travel over capacity than in the Bay Area. That's what it says. Yes, it's the problem of having one variable to convert it all, but that is one way to compare 5 cities at a time. So like GDP. But yes, it's a very good point, because one should be talking about the distribution and the maps of the gamma, which is also something interesting. I will go on often. Yes.
So for the project of charging, then the objective function is the probability of the peak power, right? The peak time, right? So
What is a...
what is the...
Okay, I understand. So we needed to keep that the charging station time needed to be continuous. That was a constraint. So everybody needed to have an amount of charge, and it had to be continuous. Then sometimes we have two thresholds. If we would be able to change their arrival time, or we could change both their arrival and departure time. Those were the two bounds in that problem. We did not use, okay, of course, that is a very good question. Then when we knew the mobility, depending on the type of motive, if you were a commuter, we could do double flexibility. But if you had an activity before work, then we would be a start bound. If you have an activity after work, we would be departure bound. So it was purely based on your daily activity profile. We did not have any other information about the individual users. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Okay. I have two questions. Let's go first.
So when inferring activity and sort of mobility profiles using the GPS traces, how does the accuracy vary across different modes?
Yeah, modes. In fact, you can see this like a synthetic population based on the mobile phone data. We had to impute the mode of transportation based on the number of cars in the given zip code. It's not good. So it's basically a model. That's why when they call this is data, it's not data. It's a model based on the phone data. So we have no way to check if the imputation of the mode. But it works, of course, based on the number of cars we see, and it's a model. Yes. What it means? Well, what happened next is that they start rerouting, and at the end of the day, everybody arrived to their destination. The collapse means that you go from a typical unloading time that is of the order of less than an hour up to 10 hours. So people get stuck in traffic. In the realistic perspective, the value of critical R, it was measured between cars, streets, capacity, and streets. The more applied component of that collapse would be not through adding cars, but through closing streets, like with snow. Then, in fact, it's just a quantitative, useful way to see that, to understand that sometimes it collapses. To do it for practical application, it would be snow emergencies or evacuations. Evacuation is a moment in which you need to have everybody departing, and you're going to have too many cars. But what this is useful is to have a framework that is quantitative to compare several cities at a time.
Could you possibly assess the network collapse in terms of the network fundamental diagram?
In terms of the network, what?
The NFT.
Yes. I think, yes, we were talking with Nicholas Geroliminit, and this is related because it's a macroscopic behavior, right? As far as I can tell, yes, I think we need to just measure the macroscopic fundamental diagram when the network collapses. But all the network collapse with this is in simulation. None of us has network collapse field observations. But definitely, yes, we measure the macroscopic fundamental diagram in these simulations too. Again, remember that this traffic assignment was cellular automata one lane. The next step would be make it in a little bit more realistic traffic simulators, but the behavior doesn't change. Even if you do the simulation and inject many cars, it's going to collapse in the more sophisticated simulator. Yes, it's interesting to. I have a student coming to that works with Monica Menendez, and he knows about fundamental MFD, and we're going to be working together trying to study the two approaches.
All right, we are out of time for today. We want to thank you for joining Berkeley. We know that the faculty and the students are happy to have you. And thank